AAA opened the door for every new console. For years and years and years, big AAA games will go first. They'll use the new engines. They'll do tons and tons of tech. And then every game in the company after that gets to use what they want. The last place, they audited us twice because they couldn't believe that we spent, over $100 million. And I'm like, we had to start everything new.
And now for a sponsored message from Green Man Gaming. Green Man Gaming is creating new revenue streams and discoverability options that will help businesses extend the life cycle of their video games and grow their audience. Green Man Gaming recently revealed its Charity Bundles platform, a curated way for publishers to reach new audiences, generate incremental revenue, and support causes that matter. The platform offers transparent stock levels, instant key fulfillment, and regional pricing, all while raising funds for charities such as Special Effects One's Special Day. You can get involved at www.greenmangaming.com/company/charity-bundles. Elsewhere, Green Man Gaming Distribution is a new service that helps studios boost discoverability by activating titles across 180 plus vetted retailers, reaching over 100 million gamers and delivering up to 20 to 30% more revenue compared to Steam-only sales. Now, back to the show. Hello and welcome to the Game Business Show. This week, I'm talking to a veteran of video game development who in recent months has experienced firsthand the challenges facing those looking to create AAA video games. He's also responsible for some of the industry's most iconic titles, directing and producing projects including Dead Space, numerous Call of Duty games, Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, From Russia with Love, Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen 2, Gex 3, and most recently, the Callisto Protocol. I am, of course, talking about Glen Schofield. Glen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Christopher, thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. It is a long list of games.
It goes all the way back. It's like, what? I think it's your first game, a Barbie game, according to the internet. Was that your first?
Yes, it was.
What a first, I mean, hopefully not your last game, but first and most recent game.
Yeah.
Juxtaposition there between Barbie and sort of utter horror.
But, I come from an illustration background. I was illustrator in New York for a little while there. And, you just jumped on whatever project. And my whole life was kind of like that. I always had creative projects. People, somehow they show up at my door. And I didn't care. All the artists, there was only I think I was the 12th guy hired. And there was a couple, I think 5 artists, something like that. And they all just thought it was funny to give the new guy Barbie, but I didn't realize I was just psyched, I'm like, hey, this is something new. I get to use my computer experience, and Barbie ended up outselling everything they had done. 9 years, so they made me art director.
Well, that's it. Was you know what? Right. My first job in games, I was working QA for about a year, and they gave me the Thomas the Tank Engine iToy game. It was my first experience.
Okay, there you go. You'll get it.
And I was excited. I was just excited to work in video games. And similar, different story, but
no, it is very similar. Yes, yeah.
Well, I wanted to get you on because you've just gone through. I feel to start with the modern times. You've gone through what sounds like a frustrating experience trying to get. It's a new horror project off the ground. I think. I know you told this story on LinkedIn, but for those who haven't read it, no, but 2023. All right, so 2024, at the end of 23, we started talking about, this is a friend of mine is he's a venture capitalist, so very big. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, obviously I want to make another game. And I have one, so I kept, I had been working on it for a couple of years, and then you kind of go back to it again when you have new ideas. And so it's always being worked on. And I always have a few like that. So there was 2, and nobody could decide. There was 5 or 6 of us. And they finally just come on, you need to decide. You're the one directing it. I'm like, okay, right. So I picked Elliot. And because I was working on a ton of enemies. I mean, a couple thousand. Wow.
I have tons and tons, just making them. So we went out with Hellion. But when we started, which was probably started talking in September of 23, the market hadn't gone south yet. The VC, he was just, I had my VC and I had my agent. And so they hadn't seen it yet. And we started feeling it after we had put together a PowerPoint, but a really good one, and financial data, all that stuff. But so we went out hearing this stuff, and then we started, but the meetings were everybody was lining up to see it. I used to pitch before. I pitched my whole life, right? So I get pretty passionate and animated, and so there's a bunch of people who actually enjoy my pitches, and so I know people. A couple of them were saying, "Hey, we just wanted to hear what you have." But then we had quite a few that went to 2 and 3 meetings. But now we're getting into a couple months into 24, and now we're feeling it. Right. And we're not being told get down to 10 million, not yet. We're just being, you want 100 million? That's a lot of money. And, they don't realize that, some of these games that I've worked on in the past, COD is really a really expensive game, but they have 3 modes. So some of these games, and those, when you're making a mode for Call of Duty, it's a freaking game. So, there's a lot of content in those. And so I was looking to do something big here. But even then, we were getting the price down. I could get it down to maybe 85 or something like that. But then, I'm reading these articles that are they're like, AAA is dead. You're dead. You ought to just just anybody who's in AAA ought to retire. And some of these are executives in the game industry. Mm-hmm. And so I started getting, hearing this, and that's when I was, starting to say, to some of these guys, like AAA opened the door for every new console for years and years and years. Or they open, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, the big AAA games will go first. They'll use the newer engines. They'll do tons and tons of tech, and then every game in the company after that gets to use what they want. So there was so much good that AAA has done, and so I was just getting a little upset at some of these guys. It's just like, how can you turn your back on people like this? Mm-hmm. But because it happens all the time. There's not a lot of cartoony, hoppy, jumpy games anymore. Platform games, there's a few, maybe, vintage and Nintendo, but, so we've seen things come and go, and I personally don't think the AAA isn't like a racing game. AAA is a whole, it's a platform game, so.
Mm. Well, I was going to ask you, what does AAA mean to you? Because, you take something like, I talked about this on the show recently with someone else. I talked about how, and I take a horror game. Well, a horror game doesn't do everything, right? It has combat, it has atmosphere, it has story, but it doesn't necessarily have driving. It doesn't necessarily have RPG mechanics. They're often, 10 hours less long. But people would describe Resident Evil or something like that, or even your, Dead Space, some of your games as AAA. But they're obviously a completely different scope to Assassin's Creed or
Yeah, you know how much Dead Space cost?
I have no idea.
Maybe 32 million, something like that. I don't know when I started hearing that I was, my games were being labeled AAA. I'm like, you have any idea what making Dead Space was like? Yes, I was at EA, but at that time, EA published something like 60 games a year. Mm-hmm. And internally, I mean, it was, they had studios in, we had 5, 6 games just down here in Redwood Shores, but they have studios all over the world. And so in order to get your game, even like Dead Space, I made a deal with the president at the time, and I said, I need 18 to 20 people. Put me in a room, because I was leaving after Bond, and I just didn't want to make another Bond game. So, no offense to Bond, and no, and so I made a deal with the president at the time, Paulie, and just give me 18 or 20 people, put me in a corner and leave me alone for a year. Because the big companies, especially back then, had a tendency to go, I need 10 of your people. Just as you're about to hit a great milestone or anything, well, anybody comes in and takes your people. So I was used to that and hated it. And so we wrote that down, and I got to pick the people. So, I had already had established a group of people, and then new ones every game and stuff like that. So, making Dead Space, then after that, is trying to keep it established within the company. So people, I've heard of it, right? You are marketing inside your own company. I did a number of things. I made a calendar. I made a scary freaking, with just kind of the concept part that we had. I was like, I spent like, I don't know, $4,000 on it or something. And we put dates on it, and like famous dates, and then we pass it out to the executive. We kind of hit it. Holy crap, did I get in trouble for that? But at the same time, now they're starting to hear Dead Space. Then I started taking posters. We made some posters, and we'd put them up. Like, we'd go to the big, with any internal show, like we would have one in, I shouldn't say show, giant meeting, executives would get together.
Yeah.
We'd go there and put these posters by the urinals in the men's room, so that, whenever they're going into the bathroom, they're seeing Dead Space. And so it was just, we did this guerrilla marketing to stay relevant, but it didn't take long. It took about 6 months. Well, it took about 3 months to scare my boss, and that was important, because as soon as he was always on boards, man, his Nick Earl. I mean, he wasn't like a boss. He was like just this dude that had more power, and he just blocked things for me. He let me make the game for a while, just.
Yeah.
And then he was there with me pretty much the whole time, because it took over a year to get it greenlit. And this is after having McConaughey come in and going, this is amazing. But man, that's about as indie as you can get inside a giant company.
Yeah.
Fighting for your dollars. And then in the end, dude, you get this. They do this internal, so that they're psyched, because EA, they're showing people Dead Space. People are like really excited for it now. But then they do this internal thing where they have this third thing where the chief creative officers, there was 2, I guess, at the time, come in, and they look at all games. Mm-hmm. And they were comparing ours to Mirror's Edge, because Mirror's Edge was the other new game coming out.
I remember, yeah.
So internally, we're about 5-6 months before ship, both games. Something like that, it could be. And they give Mirror's Edge a 90 and Dead Space a 72.
Yeah.
This is internal, right? And we're like, and the team is devastated. And we got that 5-6 months. And how do you talk to them? That's part of your job. You have got to explain to them, no, these guys are wrong. It just sucks the wind out. What does that do, though? Internally, they go, well, let's give Mirror's Edge more money in marketing than Dead Space. I think we had something like 12-14 million in marketing, which is, the people going, that's more than my budget for making the game. Yes, but we're talking EA and
yeah.
And so is that AAA? I really don't know. I don't know.
It's probably AAA for a horror game, but is it AAA for? I mean, it's such a meaningless term in many respects.
It is. It is.
It's AAA for that genre, but it's not a genre that requires you to build a 100-hour open world epic experience, does it?
Yep.
And I guess that's something when I hear the term, I actually don't like it. We talked about it. I've said this so many times.
I don't like it either. The first time I heard it, I'm like, AAA just sounds like my nose in the air. I mean, I'm just sitting here making games, and then one day somebody said, "You're making AAA games." I'm like,
Well, I guess you definitely, I mean, we talk about Call of Duty being a certain scale.
yes.
But what is it? Is it the amount of money it makes, the amount of players it's got, how many people it took to make? I look at, again, I apologize to our listeners who've heard me say this so many times, but I look at games like Space Marine 2, Expedition 33, which people say, oh, they want AA. But yeah, but what they do is of AAA quality, right? You know, the amount of energy and effort and time they spent on this.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it may not have the AAA budget that you associate with Assassin's Creed or something like that. But it's still, and I'm like, I think this is when it's not AA. AA suggests it's a lower quality. It's not. It's just more focused. Like I don't really. It's a nebulous term. And so when people say is AAA dead or AAA is dead, I'm like, I don't even know what are you actually talking about here being dead. It's what you're talking about. His mega budget games are having a tough time at the moment unless they're attached to a big franchise. Which, yeah, okay, we can see that that's just a factual situation. But yeah,
but there are still so many AAA games out there. What are you going to tell Capcom? You can't make AAA games anymore. Nobody wants them.
Monster Hunter Wilds is a AAA game and it's their fastest selling video game in history. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which was released just like a week afterwards, sold 2 million copies like a week, and that's also a AAA a game, in terms of size and scale.
But what the other thing it's come to symbolize in some people's minds is a grand amount of waste, right? And it's not. I mean, we are given the budget because the number one thing is salaries, and so when you're on a game like that, where I've always demanded the top 5% when we go in higher. And that, and what I mean by, the best. And it's always hard to find, but after a while, we've been doing it a long, long time. And so that's where most of the cost is. We get to use other technologies, we get to try new things, but part of that's part of the contract, unwritten contract that you have with the company, that the AAA teams we're trying to find ways to save money. We really are. But we're the ones that sort of have to spend it sometimes. I mean, I can't tell you how many engines I've used in my lifetime, and it's a pain in the neck, but that's part of the job. Mm-hmm. And then, a lot of times we're the big one for that company or one of the big ones. And so, you have a reputation you have to live up to.
Yeah.
But it's not because we're like, AAA, man, just, go out and get a couple of Hummers and go get some, there's none of that.
Yeah.
I was actually, I'm going to say this, my last game, my last place, they audited us twice because they couldn't believe that we spent, over $100 million. And I'm like, we had to start everything new. You had nothing. There was nothing. We started a brand new studio in the United States.
Yeah.
And all those costs are lumped in there. Then we get going, and they say, and we were PS4 at the time, they go, we got to switch to PS5. And I came back a few weeks later, and I said, okay, here's the cost. And they were like, what? He's just going PS4 to PS5. I'm like, are you kidding me? No cost. And then we had to build a publishing company. They didn't have one. They did, but it only had done PUBG. So we built one from scratch. We actually put them in Striking Distance Studios, and that was a major overhead that we had to add. There's all new tech that we had to get in the brand new studio, and so all those costs get lumped in there. There's so many more. I can't remember. But the other thing is, you know how many times the company comes to you and says, you know, my son is, I'm not saying this happened in crafting as much. My son really loves your game and he really wants a big bazooka type gun that he called the F-Seek. You know, the stuff that they want to add, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you talk about this because here's the thing. I'm a business journalist. I don't really do video game reviews. I don't do it. But the last game I reviewed was, I don't know if it was the last game. It probably was the last game. It was the Callisto Protocol. I love the genre, so I was offered the opportunity to do it. So I was eager to do it. And the game is really good, right? The combat is excellent. It looks visually stunning. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but there was so much promise to it. And I remember thinking, I can't wait to play the sequel, right? I just remember thinking that, you know, there's going to be something else. You'll tweak the bits that didn't quite work. You'll include all the stuff you didn't have time to do. You know.
Yes. Yeah. No, I get it.
The sequel is where it's going to, you know, will be. And we had IO Interactive on the show talking about it a couple of months ago, and they told us how their recent Hitman games, each sequel costs less than the previous one to make, but delivered better results critically and financially.
Yes.
And I worry that sometimes,
depending on how you design, yes.
Yeah, they obviously very much built it in that way. But people, you mentioned talking about when you invest in AAA at launch of a console and all of that, you know, investment ends up getting passed along in the future. And I know that there are AAA companies, just mentioned IO Interactive, that think franchise, they think long term when it comes to the investment they make. They have an element of patience. Okay, the first game, the margins weren't great or non-existent, but you know, we'll keep pushing this. I don't really have a question there, but I do feel I was just very disappointed. I mean, I'm assuming we're not going to get a Callisto Protocol sequel, right? I'm very disappointed that wonderful groundwork that was laid, isn't being built upon.
Well, I'll tell you, you're absolutely right about the groundwork. You know, everything that we had done. And not only that, this was the discussion that I had with them starting, which was, hey, Witcher didn't start making it till the third game. And it was his favorite game. Yes. And I said, but we can make money on our second game. There's no doubt about it. And that was what we had. And I said, you know, maybe if we're lucky, we'll break even on the first game. Because we have to spend a lot of money on all of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really, what bothers me is because we had this dialogue so often. It was like, yes, you know, we're going to make this, we're going to do this. Then we went public. And all of a sudden, you know, then we had with COVID. So COVID just... We had to go from, we didn't even move. We were in the studio 1 week, man, 7 days. And then COVID hits and we pulled out. So we still had to hire 100 people. Because this was, I mean, you played it, you saw it was not only massive. Everybody you know, they talk now about, we don't want great graphics. I'm like, full of crap. That's what I get. They come to me because they know they're going to get really good graphics too, and that kind of just comes as it comes with it because I'm an artist, I'm an art director, so you get that as a bonus, and we're going to push on that, right? The thing is, look, I freaking love making games, and I do love there's a political aspect to it. I don't like when the politics get in the way, which they did with crafting. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they told me that the game has to ship in December because of the Korean stock market. I should have just shut it down right there, because and said, and you're going to ship it, because I'm just mad at myself on that one, right? And then politics, because it came out and look, it was a shit show when it came out on the PC on Steam. And so we got labeled with that, of course, and we should have, but you know, I was upset. So he stopped talking to me on December 10th, which is right after ship, and he didn't talk to me again until the next May. So during that time, I just took the team and we did all our DLC. We did extra. And then we did 86 patches. And then we had a regimen. Every time we were going to release a patch, 12 of us would get in a room, every department. If all 12 didn't raise their hand that it was ready, we didn't send it out. We weren't going to do that same crap, rushing because we had to. And so from what I heard the other day, the game has sold anywhere between 6 and 7 million copies, which I think was...
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so it not only made its money, it made a lot of money for a first game.
Wow.
And I've heard those numbers a couple of times. First I heard 6 million, then I heard 7 million. I'm thinking even if it's 5, it made its money. But these numbers are pretty solid from who I got them from. But we also saw the downloads on the Xbox and the Sony, and they were huge. Mm-hmm. Millions and millions of people. So it's set up to win, but then I don't know why, except for maybe,
Yeah, yeah.
But, look, let me step back for a second because I loved my time at EA. Mm-hmm. Making Dead Space and doing all that stuff and doing the internal marketing, doing all that. And that was a heyday for EA. They had this brand new studio. People were coming from around the world to come look at the studios and the whole campus, and it was just a wonderful time. I mean, hell, I had Robin Williams come into the room quite a few times, and his son ended up working for me for a couple of years. Zach, hey Zach, and it was a wonderful time. And then I go to Activision, and I loved those guys. It was men and women, and it was all like A personalities with smart, and it was like a boxing match where you learned,
Yeah.
So no, man, I really enjoyed it. I've just had a couple of, everybody has a rough patch, but you get through it.
Well, I think, do you know what I thought was super unlucky that you ended up going up against a remake of your own game in Dead Space? Like, I just thought, what are the chances? We've been waiting for a horror game like this.
I know what the chances are, and I have an internal story I'll never tell except for if I ever write a book.
Oh, wow. Well, I remember I've been waiting for a Dead Space style game for ages, and 2 come along at once was just...
Who do you think I went to first when I was going to make a horror game?
Yeah. Wow.
I think what this was a wake-up call. Because a lot of times when you're making a AAA game, like... Crafton never came out. I said, here's the budget, and we're pretty tight with budgets. We've been doing them for decades. And even though they get bigger and bigger, you know how much everything costs. You go out, you get people to get. So your estimates are pretty tight. And then you kind of get them better and better. And matter of fact, I've always shipped to pretty much the budget. But in this case, we had to keep going back because they were like, oh, add PS5. By the way, we're going to do this. We're going to, So the budget stayed pretty close, but nobody said to me, I need you to get 40 million down. No one said that to me. Mm-hmm. No one's ever come back and said, your games are too expensive. Well, no, I should say Activision, we used to punch it out, no doubt.
Yeah. But they said that to you with this game, right? They were not publishers, but VCs were like the game that you were Hellion. It was like you started off 85, was it 17 million or something?
We didn't really start to go down. At some point, I just said we had seen everybody. We had gone through one with 6 interviews, and we thought, okay, this is it, right? And we're going on the 7th one. And the 7th one, they just said, let's do a call. Did a call and said, hey, thank you. We've decided to say no at this time. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I thought we were becoming friends. Like, you could say no, but this way, and so politics started getting involved too. There's a lot of around the world, things that were happening as well. And it was a rough time. And just at some point, we all just agreed. I just said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to make the game, but it's not that. I didn't go out designing a game for 40 million. Could I take a game and make it smaller? Yeah, but at some point you go, well, wait, that's not the game I made.
Yeah.
And then, and so it took some time. And, I had a big art show in the middle of all this. I had a big show in San Francisco. So I was working my butt off at the same time as doing these pitches and stuff. And, I'm in my new art studio now. Yeah. I just moved in 2 days ago.
Oh, nice.
So everything's still a mess. So, and then at the same time, I'm writing ideas. I got a bunch of game ideas, maybe 5 that definitely games, and I have a bunch of ideas that I'd love to see made into Netflix movies or something like that, because they wouldn't make a game, but they make a great movie. I don't even know how to go about with those.
Yeah. Well,
but what I have decided, go ahead.
Go on. Didn't I see a post you say about you've got a single player idea or something that you've seen a bit of renewed interest in that area of the industry?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's I've had it for a while, and it's based on one thing that I had read. It's funny how an idea comes. One thing I read a long time ago, 5 years ago, was that Ramses the Eighth is the only pharaoh never to be found. They don't know where he's buried. They can't find his pyramid. And so they're still looking in the Valley of the Kings. But my premise is it's not there. And so it's a dark action adventure. Big action. It's monsters and stuff, not just. But there's some. I can't get into it too much.
No, don't spoil it. Hopefully it comes. I actually played an Egypt. There's not many games set in that kind of world. I played a remake of a game called Power Slave. Oh, it's Exhumed, I think it was called. It's a Doom style sort of Metroidvania type game from the 90s, right?
Right.
Nobody played it. Night Dive recently remastered it. It's very good. I had played that recently. And I did think to myself when I played it, this is of interest. We don't see much of this outside of like levels in 3D platformers, that sort of Egyptian-y style thing.
No, this has got, what was happening was, this was that same idea I had when we went out with Hellion, but I wasn't satisfied with the ending. Mm-hmm. And so, and I had really been thinking about it for a while, and I kept going round and round. And then one day it just hit me, the ending. And at the same time, this is how ideas come from me sometimes, is just in like whoosh, a whole wave of like, here's that ending. Oh, by the way, there's a sequel that can be made of this, and there's a new mechanic, and I just have notes, so I just take hundreds of notes.
Did you do it on a budget? Is it a game that fits in the current conservative landscape?
Not necessarily, but it's conservative for what you call AAA. It's under 100 million. Haven't gotten down to exactly, but yes, because of design, I bet I could do it for. You know what? My agent's working on. His group they're working on the. I gave them a budget, and they're working on it and going through it. So they're all ex-devs and stuff, and so. I don't want to quote it yet.
Okay, wait there.
But yes, I can get it much cheaper. I can get it definitely cheaper because there's a big design thing in there with the overlapping.
Yeah.
No, I'm really excited about it. That's what, I was thinking about retiring, not retiring from games industry, but retiring from directing. And I can't, you just don't go, well, I'm going to put my shovel down and I'm done. I'm done. Because you still have ideas. You still want to make stuff.
Yeah.
I'm still looking forward. I'm not looking behind. So, and you know what, dude? Callisto was really tough. It was a tough because we had to transition 200 people. We didn't even have them yet. All over the world, you got to get 200 dev kits. There were no chips at the time. It was a freaking mess. I had two major operations during COVID: knee replacement and shoulder, and I put on a lot of weight. I was not myself, and I've lost 90 pounds.
Oh, I don't.
I got in shape. I go to the gym all the time now again, which is what I used to do. I was getting back to do one more marathon at least,
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm going to jump back in there. And the rejection part, to be honest, a lot of people were giving me, I'm sorry, dude, I'm sorry. But as an artist and a creative person, your whole life there's rejection all over. Even if you're making Call of Duty, somebody will go, I hate your freaking mechanic, So,
You can handle it.
yes.
Well, this is the thing, right? We talk about, you are a veteran. You mentioned in one of your posts how concerned about younger people who are out of work at the industry now.
Yes.
I actually spoke to Amir Savat, who has been building this community of people looking for work, and he gave us this horrifying stat. People with less than 3 years experience working in video games who are looking for work today have between a 5 and 7% chance of finding a job in video games. It increases, obviously, the more when it gets to people who are a bit more experienced. But actually, if you get to people who are over 50, the number moves to 5 to 7% again. That feels like a real problem. And I have no idea what the solution is other than, more investment.
Well, I wouldn't doubt there's statistics like that, but I know we're definitely always looking for smart people right out of school, and I grabbed 7 right from this one class, and all 7 started and shipped the game. So I don't think you're going to ever. They're going to come back and get jobs again. Look, that's another reason why I'm trying to see if I can find a gig, is to show people, hey, it's not dead yet. It's not dead. And as a matter of fact, it's not dead because some freaking executive says that AAA is dead and you get out of the industry. And I say that because I do read a lot and I do go after them in hopefully intelligent enough ways. And let's be honest here. Everybody's spouting out about AI. I am in the thick of things. I'm trying stuff out. And I am not a technical guy, so I'm trying these things out. The one thing that they always tout is like, well, you can make great concept art and you can make movies. You can make cinematics. Do you know the last thing that the fans were telling us? Don't make cinematics. That's what we hear. And now you're telling me AI. So look, AI is going to be fantastic. And I do a few talks and I'm going to be showing how AI is really can increase efficiencies amongst creative people. I want to do that with others. It's so far gone. It's so far like, somebody the other day hit me up on it and said, look, I can make your game, one of your games, in 3 months. And with 80% less people, 20% of the people. And I'm like, okay, let's just start with the animation track. Okay, so you make concept art. Now you got a character. Now you take the character and you pull it out into 3D. Maybe you can do that. You have a million tweaks you're going to have to do because art directors aren't going to want to write it first, this exact same way. It is. And then who's putting the skeleton in? Oh, they're going to put a skeleton in. And they're going to move in every direction that we think. And we have departments to do that. And then it's got to go from the skeleton, it's got to go get the animation, and you got to pick all the animation. So someday, 10 years, 5 years, it'll be here. But is it going to be an engine? Is it going to be a whole bunch right now? It's a whole bunch of things that just kind of sock it in. And probably into what? So because I don't think the Unreal Engine is sitting there and going, oh, I heard about this thing over in Utah that they're making for advanced something, and let's plug it in. So it's going to be like the beginning of any kind of new technology, in my opinion. Everybody's rushing to get into it, even the old big companies, with Google and Meta and all that. Got a million people jumping into it. It's going to have to like settle down a little bit before we can actually use it. So we got to continue to make games. So I look for clever ideas to make the game cheaper. At the same time, I'll always be looking for tools. They were saying that the AAA, you don't look for tools, but that's all we do. We always want tools. Right? We have tools departments. So yeah, we're always trying to make it cheaper if we can, and more efficient and faster and better.
Doesn't that make it, we're talking about, the question before was about sort of talent and jobs not being there. I'm always a bit concerned about, I'm not to say concerned, but I think that's the concern, isn't it, about AI, is that what that means for creative people who, artists or anyone that might be looking to get into this space early doors. We have kids coming into schools and universities now. Are there going to be the jobs for them? If one of the things I've always had with AI is that a lot of the things that I started doing, even as a journalist, which I was doing when I joined, you don't need people to do that anymore. And it is that's simple things like transcription and stuff like that. And I always consider AI always looks back. It's not necessarily looking forward, right? And yeah, there's a load of disparate thoughts there that I'm just throwing out. There's the people catastrophizing, and then there's the people that think it's going to be a game changer for it. He's going to democratize stuff. And
man, I'm not only my industry but my profession, the creative profession, is like right in the crosshairs of this discussion. And all I can say is that I remember when this is really long, when like these brand new the new types of airbrushes came out, right? And then people started picking them up, and they're like, dude, being able to make balloons look good and things look round and everything. They weren't artists. They're like, look at this. Wow, airbrush is going to take artists' job. Then they put the airbrush in the hands of the artists. And then I'm saying airbrush, but actually it was more like, I remember when Photoshop was coming out. Okay, now anybody who actually did airbrush or did anything like that, they were sort of out of work because computers are going to make it faster. I now had to undo. I now could add airbrush techniques within seconds and all that. But then everything just got more complicated. I remember when motion capture, that was going to take jobs away. And what I look at animation departments now, and they could be 30 people.
So you think it raises the bar?
Absolutely. It always raises the bar. It's raising it now for me when I'm, coming up with ideas or coming up with worlds, or, I dig really, really deep now with AI stuff. And the biggest problem I have is trying to cull through some of these, because I'm going in different directions, and then I'm taking it into Midjourney, and I wish I had ways I could just take things into Midjourney. And then I wish that it could art direct like me and pick out the top 10. So I see ways that I could be really efficient in actually showing my vision. Right? I can get this all out. And I've done all my own pitches and all that. But yeah, playing it through. And I wish I could, predict what jobs. I hear people going, well, we're going to have prompt engineers, and we probably will, but I tend to think I'm already going to chat and going, okay, this is the description of what I want. Write me a very detailed prompt, and about 50% work. So you know what I mean. I can get that number will get better. So there's. At some point, even prompts would be taken away. But there's going to be other jobs. I don't know exactly what they are. We are going to need artists. I mean, you can't just go press a button and now I've got this world, right? That's what if the guy says, press a button, I got a world in like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, we're those little hidden places that you want the character to be. And like, you got the tree and you got to move the tree over and come on.
Yeah, AI naturally, what's the next world going to look like? And can AI work out what they will look like? Surely that's going to come from human imagination.
Yeah, but if you use AI enough, you start to see patterns. I see patterns in Midjourney all the time now.
Well, a post you did a little while ago spoke to me, changed the subject entirely. It was around wanting an awards event. And I don't know if it's an award event, but I do think we lost something when we lost E3 as an industry. It was like, one of the biggest moments in entertainment. I mean, Summer Game Fest is great. It's wonderful. Gamescom is awesome. The Game Awards, I think that's probably the closest thing we've got to an E3 scale moment. But I do feel like we're missing that big look at us. And when we're in an industry that's a bit depressed, right, which we are as people within the industry, as with the industry itself, having a cultural moment where we get to say, look, look at the awesome stuff everyone's creating, and having that big epic, it doesn't have to be in June, but it was to be in June showcase. I do think not only are we missing something there culturally, but I think we're missing there so it's sort of emotionally as an industry, something that brings people together, gets people excited, gets people talking. And we have all of these hundreds now, and they're excellent. They're all excellent. A lot of them are. Tiny little events or small events and mid-sized events all over the place. But I just think the industry is missing something since, and maybe it's because we had it for so long since E3. So it really spoke to me, that post you did on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I'm glad it did, because for developers, it was just amazing. I mean, I think I mentioned it in that one, in which every time I went down there, which was every year, I came back with something that made my game better. We all did. We all did, because we were so excited to show each other, my friends down at Naughty Dog, and they're like, dude, you got to see this new game. You got to do that. I'm like, oh, you got to see this new tech. Because when we're down there, we're not like competition. We're this brotherhood and sisterhood of developers, right? And it's so good once a year that you would show each other what you're working on. And you would go back all the time and make your game better. At the same time, it is that big thing that you're talking about. It was also a forcing function. We all had to get our game. And that's, I've heard the company saying, well, we don't want them having to worry about this thing every year. I think it was more about money. I'm not really sure why, because when they started splitting and going, we're going to go be across the street, I'm like, well, I'm not going there. It's too hot. You know what I mean? It's like, why have a show and then everybody's outside?
I've got to go through security, and I've got to go through security and through another security, then get back through security again. I hated that. It's interesting. Whenever I do the Summer Game Fest, I run into, I don't know, Yves Guillemot or Phil Spencer or some of the CEOs, and they all talk like they miss E3. All of them do. And they always say, like, we want to bring something back. We want to do something back. And yet, obviously, I'm assuming, I'm playing out the journey in my head. They say that, and then someone puts it in a plan, and a CFO sees it and goes, no.
Because there's no ROI on, wait a second. Glenn here said he got a new mechanic, and new technology. Jimmy got it, but I don't know how I can write it down. So I understand that, and that it's not quantifiable, but it's real.
Yeah. A
lot of things in creative aren't quantifiable, right? Make it more blue. It's talking about, it ties into everything we've been talking about here, whether it's AAA or whatever, in that the only way to get out of challenge times, and the games industry is still selling, let's be clear here, it's still a massive, massive mega industry. Yeah.
The only way to get out is to create stuff and make stuff that resonates and speaks to people and gets people excited about things. And we can talk about business models and subscription services and streaming platforms and AI. I'm talking about all of these different things, but it comes down to making stuff. I think to that time, Iwata wouldn't, he said, I'm not cutting costs, because the only way Nintendo is going to be successful again is if we make something people want to play. And it wasn't about, I think it's the challenge of trying to make a business out of art, really. I guess it's always the challenge any artistic industry has to face.
Yeah.
No question there.
No. I mean, I feel like during COVID that the wrong people were chosen in many cases to run a game and run a studio. And I mean, I saw lead designers getting all of a sudden you're going to direct the game. And by the way, it's your studio too, so hey, you get to run it. I mean, it took me a long time to get to this, to be running the studio, running your own game, that sort of thing, and so it was given to people who didn't have that knowledge yet of like, being a director, dude. You're 24/7, man. You're 24/7, and you're every aspect of the game all the time.
There was all these new studios being opened, all these new teams being formed.
Yes, exactly. And they've all failed, many of them.
And we didn't have enough talent to lead these studios, all these new teams that we will be starting up. And that involved hiring people and speed, it involves poaching people if you could, but ultimately you're probably having to speed run people into positions maybe they weren't ready for.
How good are you at hiring, Now all of a sudden you've got to hire every department. And so it's every aspect now, HR and marketing and all this, it is a lot to put on people. And if they aren't, you've got to be creative all the time, right? You've got to be one of those people that it doesn't shut down, in my opinion, because it's all the time. When you're making a game, that's what I love about it. But that's also the tough part. And it's not for everyone, just like everything isn't. But so to me, it's right now, you're right. I think they need to invest in a couple of people to let's make something big, right? Let's make something big and bold and then show them that we still can. And you want to try and make it cheaper? Sure, man. And definitely ways that we can make these cheaper. AI is kicking in, and by the end of the game, there'll probably be enough AI in there to save even more money. I don't know. We'll see. Man, I am 100% behind it because, I've been there for a lot of these. I was there for the beginning of the internet. They're like, the internet. A website. Everybody's going to have a website, and now everybody does, So AI's coming. It's here. Just work with it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to making another game and trying to see this industry get out of it. I'm going to be doing the keynote for Gamescom Asia, which is a really big show. I guess about 200,000 people there.
In Thailand, isn't it?
Yeah, and my message is positive because these things, in economics, these things are cyclical. This might be a big cycle. Games are going to come back. I don't know exactly in what way. They're going to change a bit. They're coming back. You don't tell a billion people like, what AAA's that? And they go, yeah, we agree. And, this and that. No, I mean, these are people, they all have their own likes and dislikes. So.
Yeah. And we're a broader industry today. The idea of anything really being dead. Nothing's dead. People still buy magazines. People still buy video games in boxes. People still do buy 3D platformers, right? It's
yeah. I know. I still play it.
Well, Glenn, I've taken up way too much of your time.
I appreciate it.
But thank you. It's been a real pleasure hearing your experiences, and I really do hope you get that game made. It sounds great to me.
We'll make something.
Thank you, everyone, for listening or watching at home. We'll be back with all sorts of news, analysis, and interviews. If you want to keep track of all that stuff we're doing, just head to thegamebusiness.com, sign up to our newsletter if you haven't already, and you'll receive all our updates. That's it for today. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What is the greatest horror film of all time?
Alien.
Will game streaming ever become a mainstream proposition?
Yes.
Best album of all time?
That's a hard one. Boston's First.
If you could be the game director of any existing video game franchise that you haven't already worked on, what would it be?
Alien, Gears of War, Road Warrior.
Console or PC?
Console.
Whatever work you're doing, what's the first thing you do in the morning?
I go to the gym.
What's one thing games companies should be thinking about but probably aren't?
New ideas.
Is video game subscriptions a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing for older games.
If you could run one other video game studio, which would it be?
I would like to run a Call of Duty studio, Gary.
Oh.